Brown, Jan Hubbard, Michael O'Malley, and David Owens, who will be speaking on making Archival resources accessible for Georgia educators and students in K-12 and higher education. Thank you all very much for sharing with us this morning, and I'll hand the session over to you now.
Again, I'm Mandy Mastrovita. I'm the Digital Projects Librarian at the Digital Library of Georgia. I'm talking about the DLG's educator resources. You can find them on our website by going to the banner where it says teach and dropping down to educator resources. I have also included a direct link for the educator resources. You can screen cap this, or I'll be happy to share my slides at the end of the, or after our presentations are over. Okay, our educator resources are for 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 8th graders. Whoops, looks like I went backwards, sorry. Each resource contains suggested collections, suggested searches, links to historic Georgia newspapers, suggested DPLA primary resource sets and exhibits. Where available, we have New Georgia Encyclopedia articles, Georgia Public Broadcasting resources, and posters and postcards. Our resources are based on the Social Studies Georgia Standards of Excellence. The Georgia Standards of Excellence increase emphasis on inquiry learning in the social studies classroom. This is where students share their own ideas and questions about a topic, helping foster more curiosity. These are our posters. They're 11 by 17. As you can see, each poster has an image that belongs to a partner institute of the Digital Library of Georgia. The poster on the left has an image from the Atlanta University Center. The poster on the right has an image from the City of Savannah Municipal Archives. And each of these posters correspond with a different module. We have a new series of posters forthcoming that are based on our newspaper primary source sets. These are all for the 8th grade social studies modules, and those will begin in December of 2020. So next month you'll see those rolling out. Our resources are culturally inclusive. They tell previously underrepresented stories. They share primary resources to connect stories to the real world and encourage students to become caring and compassionate citizens. They help students develop a deeper understanding of differences and similarities. They're culturally responsive in that they help create a culturally rich classroom environment. They demonstrate intentionality by using things created by or representing real people. They help tell students about the power of primary sources and how important it is to see themselves reflected in them. They promote critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity. They encourage students to analyze and evaluate information gathered from primary sources and assess its validity, and to examine primary sources from different points of view. This is a teacher testimonial from Becky Brown, who is a 7th and 8th grade social studies teacher at the Odyssey Charter School in Noonan, Georgia, who used our DLG educator resources for the SS8H2 module, analyzing the colonial period of Georgia's history, where she was able to find biographies of Mary Musgrove and Tomochichi, and they helped her teach about how Europeans used Native Americans in the establishment of the state of Georgia. Our resources are open, updated, and shareable. DLG has worked with the Georgia Department of Education, Georgia Humanities, National History Day Georgia, who have all used and promoted these resources among middle and high schoolers. National History Day Georgia is a contest that channels its use of these resources in exhibits, papers, documentaries, websites, and performances, along with a process paper and an annotated bibliography. The DLG awarded source recognition digital certificates to students who incorporated primary sources found in DLG's portals in their projects. Here's a banner for those awards that we created. Some of the topics written by the winners include Roy Barnes, Breaking Barriers to Change the State Flag, Ivan Allen, Beacon of Change, Breaking the Barriers of Segregation in the New South, Dividing a City Too Busy to Hate, Atlanta's Own Berlin Wall, and That Very Rich Negress. Primary sources are also a springboard for community involvement. Here you'll see in the photo on the right, Augusta University students performing in theater AUG's production, Moving Photographs of Vanishing Georgia. You can see the performance on the right is based on a Vanishing Georgia photograph of dental students with a corpse at the Atlanta Dental College from 1908. Their professor, Melanie O'Mara at Augusta University, notes that with the project, I was and still am interested in exploring the stories and memories evoked through the performances of the photographs and how these glimpses of Georgia's past impact culture and life in Georgia today. Some of our forthcoming projects include working with Georgia Public Broadcasting, Georgia Humanities, Georgia Historical Society, Galileo, and others to develop future modules to help K through 12 teachers incorporate primary sources in the classroom. There's also an online exhibit site to a debut in the spring. That's a joint project with Galileo. Some of the topics include newspapers, covers Dixie like the Dew, a history of urban renewal in Atlanta, the New South and the New Slavery, On Stage and Off, and Race and Reckoning in Forsyth County, 1912 to 2020. Thank you very much, and I will stop sharing and pass on to our next presenter.
My name is Mazzy Bowen, and I am the Public Service Coordinator here at the University of Georgia's Special Collections Libraries. So Jan Hubbard is going after me, and we're basically both talking about the work that we've done the spring, summer, and fall. I'm going to focus on instructional opportunities and outreach opportunities for higher education, and Jan's going to talk about our work with K through 12. So my talk is about educational outreach and instruction during a pandemic, higher education tours and instruction at UGA's Special Collections Libraries in unprecedented times. I primarily teach with the materials from Hargart's Rare Book and Manuscript Library here at Special Collections. We basically spent the summer coming up with plans and offerings for faculty and students so that we could continue to offer some of our programs during the fall semester. One program that we regularly work with is UGA's First Year Odyssey Seminar. It allows first-year students to engage with faculty in small class environments where the seminars proposed by faculty are on topics focused on their passion for research, teaching, and service. So they're often kind of fun and quirky. It can be everything from like looking at the Golden Girls to service learning with pets. There's over 300 seminars that are offered. The important thing to note about First Year Odyssey is that these kids have to show up. So it's not anything that you can sort of like phone in from home unless you're sick. But it's important that because they're kept small, that you are present. So we crafted a program to specifically host some of these FYO classes and adopted it for other classes outside of the FYO program and also other classes outside of UGA. So what we wanted is to provide them an opportunity to tour our galleries and see materials from our collections that were relevant to the class topic. The way that we did that is that we greeted the entire group, split them into two smaller groups. One half went on a tour and the other half looked at materials in the classroom. At a halfway point, the groups switched. Students were not allowed to handle materials, which under normal non-COVID times, they would be able to do. I would serve as proxy hands to turn pages or to pick up items. Students still got the experience of an up-close encounter with archival materials, and they were able to ask questions and see materials related to their class. Throughout the semester, we had tour classes on the philosophy of hip hop, natural history, history of Athens UGA, geography as it relates to future geography educators, propaganda and misinformation. And you can see here in the pictures, this was our philosophy of hip hop class. This also gave an opportunity for our student docents to work on their tours if they elected to do so. So Eric in the pink and I in the black, we were the ones that would work a lot of these FYO programs. And so it was a great opportunity for sort of him to flex his student docent muscles and go to a tour of all the galleries here. And then, you know, we could look at materials in this case related to the 80s and 90s and hip hop in the state of Georgia. So they have a lot of fun. It gives them an opportunity to kind of get outside and do something different and ask questions and really sort of investigate the kinds of things that they've been learning about in class. So it's intended to be a fun day. The second thing that we also focus on is classroom instruction. So we regularly work with faculty in their classes throughout the school year through either our SCL Faculty Fellows Program or other instruction opportunities. So we wanted to be able to continue classes that were either archive centered or unique days where the class met at the Special Collections Library to view items relevant to their class. So this summer, we measured each classroom and arranged chairs and tables to maintain social distancing guidelines. Each classroom had a maximum number of students we could host at one time. So depending on what the faculty member came to us with, like, I have a class of 16. I'm like, well, you can use this classroom or this classroom, but not this one because it's too small. Or if they had a class of 30 students, we have a large sort of banquet style room that we could meet in safely and everybody could be really spread out. We let instructors know of possible scenarios for in-person classes. And we would sort of present those up front, and then they kind of got to cater how they wanted their day to go, depending on what it is they wanted the experience to be for their students. So each student could handle their own items in a class with no sharing, so they each had their own item. They could discuss or describe their item to fellow classmates. They could work through a worksheet rubric to answer questions. Or the instructor or librarian archivist can only handle the items and talk about them. So that was something to where they could take turns coming in and viewing the item, or the instructor could walk it around. You know, we have where no one handles the items except for the librarian archivist, and students circulate through each station to view items. So we kind of did it like sort of like, we call it a archival petting zoo, where you just kind of can browse through and look at items. Any student that needed to participate via Zoom because they were quarantining or they were sick, they were able to do so. And then we also sort of adopted the same model for Zoom only classes. We do have some large format classes that are over 100 students. And we also have classes that are only distance ed. So they meet not on campus. So we were able to still provide maybe not an in-person archival experience, but we could scan or photograph archival material and then present that via a Zoom session. And you can see here one student was really super excited about getting her own tiny photograph, and so she Instagrammed about it. And the other slide shows where we were looking at 1996 Olympics materials. So since it's Friday the 13th, I have to include Friday the 13th. This is not the final chapter. But basically what we wanted to do is to find new ways to keep our programming afloat. You know, we didn't want it to be scary for people, even though we completely understood that people were freaked out. But if you wanted to bring your class, we were happy to provide the opportunity in a safe way. And our overwhelming response is that people were really grateful for it. The students were excited to do something different because their year had been sort of dull. So we were grateful to do that. If you have any questions, you can contact me at my email address or during the Q&A. I'm going to stop my share and go to Jan.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jan Hubbard, and I'm the exhibition coordinator for the Hargett Library at UGA Special Collections. Mazzy talked to you a little bit about some of our outreach for classroom instruction and tours. But as she said, I'm going to highlight our first foray into hosting a virtual Family Day event during the pandemic. Oops. Let's see. Okay, so we moved into a new building in 2012. And it had increased exhibition space on our second floor. So slowly we became a destination for K through 12 students. It began with requests for tours from local 8th grade classes who cover Georgia history and their curriculum, but then formalized with our partnership with Experience UGA, a university-wide outreach program that brings every student in the local school district to UGA each year, K through 12. We became the permanent home for visiting 8th graders because we'd sort of already laid our claim to them. And that brought in about 800 students each spring. And then we hired the amazing Mazzy Bowen. Mazzy had experience in public libraries, and she encouraged us to think more about programming for other grade levels. She began reaching out to local teachers, and slowly we started to welcome groups of younger students to the building and began to host regular Family Day events. We now host Family Days on Saturday afternoons, 2 to 3 times a year. You can see here some photos from our Sesame Street themed event in spring of 2019. Oh, those were the days. Each time we highlight an exhibit on display. In this case, it was focused on award-winning children's programming, and it highlighted our media archives holdings. And we use the content of that exhibit to generate related craft activities, story times, scavenger hunts, screenings, all aimed at pre-K through elementary school age children. These events now draw between 200 and 300 people and are some of our most diverse events in terms of visitors. So we've become a building that sees a fair amount of foot traffic, especially kids. We host about 25,000 visitors annually, and we're used to the galleries and event spaces staying pretty full. So when our campus shut down very suddenly in March of 2020, our galleries very quickly began to look like this: empty, sad. And in the first few weeks of working from home, I really started to panic because my job is focused on engaging people in physical spaces. And it looked like that might not be our normal for a while. So what could we do to stay relevant and to continue to serve this growing young audience we've been cultivating? And then, while working from home, occupying my own 3-year-old, I came across something our colleagues at the Georgia Museum of Art were doing that I thought might work for us. So on April 11th, 2020, the folks at GMOA had planned to host an in-person Family Day, something that they do monthly. I saw an announcement on their Facebook page that they plan to convert it to a virtual event, and I wanted to know more. After a few email exchanges and phone calls with their staff, I understood what they planned to do. They were providing some video tour content online and then some prepared craft packs with instructions made available for pickup through a local art shop in downtown Athens. I signed up for the event, picked up my pack, and worked through the activity with my daughter. And after that, I knew that I could convince my colleagues, particularly Mazzy, to try something similar at Hargett Library. So a few weeks and a few Zoom meetings later, we hosted our first ever virtual Family Day event, highlighting the ongoing exhibition, the strategies of suffrage, mobilizing a nation for women's rights. We looked at our existing model for successful family days and made plans to mimic each element in this new environment. The content produced for the event was created to include options for a variety of age ranges and interests. Mazzy and I masked up and came into the office to assemble craft kits containing supplies to produce suffrage buttons and sashes, both activities that she dreamed up that would sort of tie into the content. We made 100 kits, and each kit included crayons, stickers, pre-cut sash paper, brass fastener to put the sash together, an instruction sheet, and a fun coloring sheet showing original items from the Hargett Library's collections. And that was created for us by one of our awesome reference librarians, Diane Trapp, who also dabbles in graphic design. We partnered with Treehouse Kit and Craft, a local children's store, to be our distribution point for the kits. And while craft kits were promoted in all of our marketing materials, our messaging also emphasized that craft activities could be undertaken with supplies that participants already had available at home and instructions that we posted online. In addition to the crafts, I also snuck into the galleries and filmed 2 tour stops inside the suffrage exhibit geared towards a K-5 audience, one highlighting the songs of suffrage and the other the fashion of the movement. We asked our local faculty superstar, Dr. Amagarte Tago-Kuten, a professor of theater and African American studies, to read a story focused on Susan B. Anthony, and I knitted together scans of the book pages with her excellent reading for a virtual story time. I used my Kiosk Pro, which is an application we use to run video content on iPads in our gallery, to create a simple Family Day website that provided access to all of our video content, as well as video content that had been on display in the physical gallery, and instructions for all the craft activities. So what happened? More cute pictures of children, the best part of talking about K-12 programming. Our colleague Caitlin managed promotion of the event. We posted the event to local calendars and to all of our social media pages. From first post announcing the event on May 15th to the event date, we reached 4,200 people. Our largest demographic was women between the ages of 35 and 44. And our largest geographic reach area was Athens with 43%. We also had really good engagement on Instagram, helped by our partner Treehouse Kit and Craft. In total, we had 13 individuals register for craft kits and 48 kits were distributed. An additional 11 kits were reserved but never picked up. The Family Days website landing page had 184 page views, and 30% of traffic on the Family Day website came from users directed from their Facebook event listing. So we had lots of leftover kits, but we did get some great photos. You'll see a few of them here from some of the kids who participated in the crafts. And the website statistics indicated that far more people accessed the resources than just the people who reserved or picked up the craft kits. In total, the event required about 15 hours of planning and prep time from staff, and supplies cost total less than $100. The resulting resources can continue to live online and extend the reach of the event beyond the advertised date. And the remaining kits can be repurposed down the road when in-person visits to the building resume, or if we take on virtual visits with individual classrooms in the future. We're already working with Experience UGA that I mentioned before to repackage the digital videos for outreach to K-12 audiences virtually in the spring of 2021. So this was one of our first virtual events. And since May, we've hosted lots more. We hosted another Family Day in October with Brown Media Archives, another part of our special collections, and we're able to learn a bit more from our first foray. And this exercise really got us into the making of video tour stops, a practice we have honed and adapted so that our student docents, who Mazzy mentioned before, who are undergraduates who lead tours of the building, they're now regularly producing new videos to highlight content in the galleries. So while I'm still excited that one day we'll return to in-person Family Days, I'm proud of the content we're putting out there virtually, and I'm excited that it has a life past a single day. So I see virtual events and virtual content as something we will increasingly use to maintain and enhance the experience of our K-12 audience. That's it for me. Thank you guys so much.
My name is Michael O'Malley. I'm the college archivist at Berry College. This morning, I'd like to take this opportunity to discuss a grant project. It's a partnership funded by the CIC, Council of Independent Colleges, and a partnership with the Rome, Georgia school system. In December 2018, Berry College History Department applied for a grant from the Council of Independent Colleges, and this grant was Humanities Research for the Public Good. This grant was awarded in March 2019. Project members included Dr. Tom Kennedy, philosophy professor and dean of the Evans School of Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences. He was the project coordinator. Faculty mentor, project editor, secondary researcher, and author was Dr. Christy Snyder, Berry College history professor. The primary researcher and project author was Cam Mallett, Berry College history and secondary education major, and a student athlete. He's on the track and field team. And myself, The archivist, I was the collection specialist. Here we go. This grant project was part of a larger effort. There are many institutions involved with this. The Humanities Research for the Public Good project was designed to connect independent schools with local, cultural, and civic organizations for the benefit of students and the public, to make better use of existing campus collections for teaching, undergraduate research, and public engagement, to enhance research, collaboration, and communication skills of students in humanities disciplines, and to encourage humanities faculty members and collection specialists who work in campus libraries, archives, and museums to apply their expertise to issues of public policy and community concern, and increase the public interest and appreciation of humanities research. I provided the website link for more information. And this project received the 2020 J. Franklin Jameson Archival Advocacy Award from the Society of American Archivists. All participating institutions were recognized, and this was an effort to help promote greater public awareness, appreciation, and support of archival activities and programs that foster archival work and raise public consciousness of the importance of archival work, creating a broad, long-term impact at the regional level and beyond. Community partner in the project was the Rome City School System. This partner helped with providing, in a sense, the importance of the partner for this project, due to the importance of the public and especially students, was remembering and understanding our history of working together. In the current period of divisiveness and polarization, this understanding is critical for the public good. The contribution of the Rome City Schools will lie primarily in assisting with access to the information, experience, and insight in an audience for the project. Teachers with valuable experience helped, and they helped with communicating with the students and colleagues. We plan for an exhibit to be available, to be displayed in schools and other public spaces. Teaching materials included a workshop. And we hope students and educators, friends and families would attend future public lectures and programs sponsored by this project. Research was conducted in summer 2019, conducted at Berry College and Emory University Archives, as well as community archives and record settings such as the Rome Area History Museum and the Bremen Museum in Atlanta. Oral history interviews were conducted and featured 2 Berry College alumni, college class of 1969, Evelyn Hamilton and Dr. Beverly Smith. They were Berry College's first 2 African-American graduates. And also included was Dr. Stephen Bell, former president of the Rome City Council, Rome Council of Human Relations, and a former Berry College psychology professor. Lesson plans were created and a teacher workshop occurred, teaching local history and civil rights movement, held at the Rome City Schools. Classroom activities were created for 5th, 8th, and 11th grades. These resources will help educate students about the important social and political changes in a rural Northwest Georgia community that were achieved through interracial cooperation, nonviolent tactics 50 years ago. This project will expose young community members whose civic, political, and social awareness are still developing, and the value of commitments to the public good. Historical banners were created as a portable exhibit that can be circulated and displayed in schools and other public spaces. Also, as a work in progress as well, a website was created containing information resources that examine various aspects of civil rights movement in Rome, Georgia during the 60s and early 1970s. This website features a historical timeline and information about the John A. Sibley Commission, desegregation, the Rome Council on Human Relations, and local events in Rome, Georgia at the time, such as the 1963 sit-in and a 1971 protest. And I will stop my screen sharing and turn it over to our last presenter, Mr. David Owings.
This is David Owings. I'm head of Archives and Special Collections at Columbus State University. And I just wanted to share a little bit with you what we've done to try and connect with students virtually. As we all know right now, that's more important than ever during the days of COVID. So to start off, I wanted to give you a preview of what we've done to try and move archival instruction online. So that's introducing students to the concepts of, what is a primary source? How do you approach one? How do you analyze one? And to do that, we've been using our digital archives. So our digital archives is powered by Omeka. And what we've done is we've used the exhibit function. And so I'll go ahead and navigate to that. Scrolling down here, we've titled it Digging in the Archives. I think this is a great way to help students navigate these concepts. We start off as an introduction, and I won't read all of these pages, but just to go through it and give you a preview of what it looks like. So there's ways to navigate it down here at the bottom of each page. And so going right through it, we have a page on what is a primary source. We include an example. Also examples on how do you analyze a primary source. The couple of things that I think is really important, though, is to give students and perhaps more importantly, faculty, a suggested assignment on how do you approach this. So we offer two examples. One are just links to a forum that's put out by the National Archives. And part two is a more detailed writing analysis. The other thing we do that I think is really important is giving them examples of things that make for good introductory, first time primary source analysis. So we have both digital and print. So those students who do want to come get a hands-on experience are able to do that. But for those who are uncomfortable getting out in the days of COVID, we do have a couple of examples here that are digital. Now, I don't link to these, and I think that's actually really important so that students know how to go out and find these themselves. Because knowing how to find a primary source is just as important as knowing how to analyze one. The other thing that I think is really important is connecting and making archives relevant to students. And so I have a little text here on that, as well as a hyperlink where we try and connect sources to students that are relevant to their discipline or area of study. So just reinforcing that notion that archives aren't just for historians. We have medical reports that are appealing to nursing and biology majors. We have materials on the Chattahoochee River for environmental scientists. We have music collections, collections on politics and crime for those criminal justice majors, and so much more, as we in the field know what all archives have to offer, but that isn't always so readily apparent to these students who are approaching archives for the first time. So again, just reinforcing that, archives isn't just for those interested in, broadly speaking, the study of the past, but trying to connect it with people's areas of discipline. So I mentioned we're using Omeka to power this. This is the exhibit function. And I realize this session isn't on how to install or use Omeka practically, but I do just want to give you a preview of what that looks like on the administrative side, because it's actually really easy to do. So this is the exhibit editor I'm in. You create pages here down at the bottom. It's as simple as adding a page. And if I wanted to go in and edit it, edited. You have content blocks. This one is just set up as a text block, but you can also incorporate files or image gallery and a couple of other options to play with. So it really is almost as simple as point and click. I realize not everyone has access to Omeka, but you can do something very similar with most other simple web pages. Even a Google site would be able to pull this off, I imagine. One other thing to show you very quickly, because I know we want to have time for questions, is the other thing we've been incorporating in archival instruction in classroom assignments is our documenting COVID project. So I think this has been really popular to get students to think about how history is made, how it gets recorded and preserved, how things enter the archives. So that's really important, but the other thing that I also think is really important is getting them to think about how archival materials are made available online. So getting them to think about metadata. So one of the things we've had students to do is submit to this. And so when they submit, they have to think about titles and descriptions and keywords, dates, creators, all of those fields, which as we all know, ultimately are going to make these things discoverable for future people. So with that, I'd like to turn it back over to our moderator who will help facilitate any questions.
All right. Thank you very much to Mandy, Mazzy, Jan, Michael, and David. I anticipate people have questions, so let's go ahead and get started with the Q&A. We have about 4 minutes for questions. If you have a question, please feel free to unmute yourself now and ask. Also, please feel free to enter your questions in chat or the Q&A function, and I will read them for the group. So I will open the floor to questions now. Yes, panelists can turn on their videos to respond to questions. Okay.
Hey, Kelly, sorry, there's this was the problem we were also having while giving our presentations. When we tried to start the video, it says that the host has stopped it. Just FYI, I don't know if you need to see us, but
That's okay. We'll just respond verbally. And we do have one question. It's for Jan. Do you think that your programs could be easily replicated at other organizations?
Hi, yeah, I definitely do. I think that we found out that it just didn't take a whole lot of, it didn't take as much effort as I thought it would to come up with a digital version of something that we had been doing in person. And so I think it really helped us to think about our in-person model and then make choices about how best to adapt that content online. And also to make use of resources that we already had. So like I mentioned, I didn't show you guys, but the Family Day website that I created in My Kiosk Pro. My Kiosk Pro is not really meant to do that, but it was something I was a tool I already had access to, and it sort of served the purpose. So I feel like we sort of just put things together using the tools we had. You know, making those gallery videos, I had never done that before, but I literally shot footage of myself, you know, on my cell phone with a tripod, and then stitched the videos together in iMovie. So I feel like I learned a lot of new things, but I don't think it would be hard for other institutions to do the same kind of work that we did for our Family Day.
Great, thank you. Any other questions before we wrap up today? Okay, well, we are at 10:44, so I think we can go ahead and end our time together. But I want to thank all our presenters this morning for sharing with us and everyone for your questions. Please feel free to follow up with the presenters if you have any additional questions or comments.